What is this, kid stuff?
Welcome to episode 6 of the Colombo podcast, where we are still picking silly string from our hair. Hi Ian.
Hi, how you doing, Gerry?
I'm okay. It's been a few weeks.
Well, a week and a half, I would say. Right, yeah.
It seems longer.
It does. It's been a epic journey from episode 5 to episode 6.
Nearly at the end of season 1.
We are. As far as I know, there's only one more to go this season.
True. We over the last week or so, we have fortunately picked up a number of new subscribers and listeners.
Been a phenomenal, order of magnitudes.
It's been
increase.
fantastic.
It's been great. We'd love to know where you're all from, new people. If you want to drop us a note on Twitter at Colombo Podcast, or on the comments in the show notes, or anywhere else you see, yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, the number of people,
brilliant.
and the feedback we're getting is terrific. Really makes it all worthwhile.
It does. It's pleasing. I'm also very relieved that you can all understand our accents.
That was always going to be that was the big worry.
It was on our big whiteboard of concerns. It was circled with a big red marker pen. But we seem to be okay. And one thing we would ask is keep reviewing on iTunes or wherever else, because that makes a big difference to the number of people that are getting to see the show. Pleased so far, though, and thank you everybody for your feedback and for your engagement with us.
Here. As I said, we're nearly at the end of season 1. This particular episode, Short Fuse, that we're looking at this evening, was in fact the last episode recorded in the current run.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because you mentioned that to me before we started recording, and that makes sense to me because the previous one that we saw, we talked about. In fact, no, it was 2 episodes ago. We talked about Columbo, actor Peter Falk, going on strike because he wanted to direct.
Yes,
and it made little sense to me that he would wait right to the end of the season. That he would come back and act unless there was a guarantee of some kind. So knowing that he had recorded his directorial debut, which we'll come to next week.
Do you know that, or are you?
Yes, I know that.
Okay.
Before this one, that seems to make a bit more sense to me.
Okay.
In terms of a chronology.
Yeah. Just a little bit of trivia on this one. As I said, this was the last episode to be filmed, to be shot, but it was shown in this particular order. What happened was the original run was only intended to be for 6 episodes.
Right.
But they finished ahead of schedule, and the studio demanded an extra episode to be shot.
It'd be interesting to know where the money came from that. Did they give them extra money? Did they make them do it with the surplus budget? Did they have surplus budget? It'd be an interesting one to know about.
We can perhaps find out. But Peter Falk, wasn't happy with the show itself. Dick Levinson was also, I think he was furious that the studio forced him to do this other episode, and they said it was pretty rushed, not as polished as what the episodes normally are. I don't think anyone involved was particularly happy with the overall outcome.
Right. I mean, I know I say it every week, and I've commented on it last episode, that this one was different. It's becoming like my catchphrase in this show. But this one was different. And I think you're right in what you're observing there. I think it was quite clear that the strands didn't quite come together as neatly as you might have liked.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both, I'm not presuming this, I think we both enjoyed the episode.
Definitely.
And I have not in the past paid as much attention to it because I've just been watching it as a fan.
Yeah.
But as I've said in previous episodes, I'm looking at it through different eyes now because I'm aware of that you're watching this for the first time. And it does seem to me to have been a weaker episode in terms of the plot and the structure of the episode itself. That's not to say it wasn't enjoyable.
No, because there were some great acting,
some great performances,
in this episode, and that kind of saved it a wee bit, I would say.
There was a lot of fun, but yet it seemed a bit rushed, I think.
Yeah, it seemed to be more, I don't know how to phrase this. Columbo wasn't as prominent in the episode as he had been in the other episodes, if that makes sense. Although he was the guy doing the investigation.
Yeah.
The episode was very squarely about this one man. It was his story. He featured from scene 1 right through to the end. And that was apparent, and it was obvious when you're viewing.
Yeah. before we crack on with the discussion on the episode, a little bit of production information. First broadcast in January 1972. Directed by Edward Abrams, who has directed twice in terms of Colombo, and he's been involved as an editor on 4 other Colombo episodes, as well as a Mrs. Colombo, and he's worked on the David Cassidy show and the Hardy Boys show, which starred Sean Cassidy.
That sounds like it could have been a great trivia question if you hadn't spoiled it.
Yeah, well, so obviously sons of the late great Jack Cassidy
from episode 1
from Ken Franklin. Written by Jackson Gillis, who has again been involved in 11 episodes, starting with Suitable for Framing. So
okay,
we've been aware of his work already, and a partnership of Tina and Lester Pine and the writing team as well.
Okay, it makes you wonder, given the scenario you told us about with the Rush job, are these folk contracted to the studio that were available, or were they working on something else and asked to do this? I wonder.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and we don't have any answers for you, unfortunately.
Not at the moment.
But it certainly is. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah. Okay, so as always, Ian, you're infamous or famous.
Yeah. I mean, last time you were a bit disparaging about my summary, but I think the Twitter users have shown you up a little bit on that then.
They certainly made their feelings known.
Yeah.
So why don't you give the fans
give them what they want?
Give them what they want. Give our loyal listeners what they're after. Can you give us a summary, please, Ian?
Okay. So Short Fuse opens in what appears to be a photographer's dark room, where we see Roger Stanford preparing some form of explosive device. Though we're not immediately provided with context, we do learn quickly that he is unhappy with plans to sell the company he works for, which has his family name, to a major conglomerate. It seems that his approval is in some way required for this transaction, and he faces coercion from his uncle to that end. Determined to prevent the deal going through, Stanford places his explosive device in his uncle's car. After it detonates, Colombo's challenge is to determine if and how a crime has been committed, with the evidence strewn across some treacherous terrain.
Fantastic, Ian. Thank you. As you say, we start in a dark room.
Yeah.
There's a man in a very 70s style floral shirt, and he's rigging some sort of device with test tubes and what turns out to be a cigar box. Seems very intricate.
Yeah, it's clear it was some form of, the note I took, a scientist performing an experiment.
Yeah.
Again, like most of the episodes since episode 2, I think, we're opening with background music.
Mm-hmm. There's a sax soundtrack. I enjoyed that. I liked it.
It was good music. It was entertaining, and I think it set the mood quite nicely.
Yes.
Because we commented both in Murder by the Book and in Death Lends a Hand, we made a point of highlighting how the episode began with other sounds. You had the typewriter and then you had the gunfire. But since then, the directors have gone back to a more... I mean, we don't have a theme tune still, but going back to a traditional background music approach.
Yeah.
Which is obviously at their discretion or within their decision-making process. But yeah, I think it works okay here. Mm-hmm. You don't need any speech really, but the line that he does utter on the completion of his project, I didn't really get.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I've got down here some question marks.
Yep.
Better than the Borgia. Is that what it says?
I put on subtitles to check.
Okay. I must admit, I rewound it or played it back a few times and couldn't pick it out.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, better than a Borgia?
I don't know. Obviously there's a popular TV show called The Borgias now, possibly to do with that. But not that show. Obviously that didn't happen until much later. But that story, which I believe is an older story.
Perhaps if there's anyone listening or educated audience, perhaps they can drop us a line.
Yeah, help us determine the reason for better than the Borgia.
Yeah, that would be useful, because it is annoying me.
Yeah, it is quite irritating. I mean, I'm irritated, as you can probably hear.
We then go to the chemical plant exterior.
Yeah, it's not immediately apparent that it's a chemical plant.
No, it's
an exterior. It appears to be a street, and then it becomes obvious that it's a complex, an industrial complex.
Very large.
Yes, massive, and you've got black smoke belching out, and you see the guy parking a buggy.
Yep. And the credits are rolling at this point.
Yeah. And on the buggy it says Stanford Chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
and you then see a sign that says the same, so you know you're at this chemical plant.
And the man walks into the offices of the plant.
Yep.
And it's a little bit odd here how he behaves. He walks into the sort of secretarial pool office.
Yeah, it's an exterior sort of general office.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the opening scene was so dark, I wasn't immediately aware it was the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that became apparent that it was.
Not even by his shirt.
I wasn't really focused on it.
Okay.
Because when they first go into this typing pool area, the focus isn't on him.
No.
It's on the typing. Again, we hear the typewriters.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this in a number of episodes, the sound of writing. Their typists are working away. There's an older gentleman there. The fellow comes in. He's referred to by everyone as Junior.
Yeah. But he walks around and he sort of stares at each of them. He goes up fairly. You couldn't get away with that behaviour today. He sort of invaded their space a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the impression I got was that here's the guy who's the heir to the business, and he's just behaving as he wants. It's his family. He's not getting into trouble, which was not, of course, the case as it proved. But that was the impression that I got watching this.
And he causes a scene by pulling out sort of silly string,
and he starts shouting to them, "Workers, arise and protest the sale of your company."
And they're not amused. And he calls them squares.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a proletariat uprising is really something that was likely in that setting.
It didn't seem as if they were a revolutionary bunch, to be honest.
No, they didn't appear to be on board with his campaign there at all.
No. Silly string, you said to me that you were surprised that they found that interesting in the...
Well, not so much surprised as it was interesting to see that it was surprising to them.
Okay.
Because they obviously were not aware of this product.
Yeah, and I like yourself, had no idea about silly string and its history.
Yeah.
So a quick glance on Wikipedia. It was actually invented in 1972, same year as the... apparently it was invented in 1972. But this
would have been filmed the year before.
So perhaps it just
could
became...
have been a prototype silly string.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been round about the same time. So it's a brand new product on the market, invented by two chaps, one of them being a chemist,
right,
working with an inventor, colleague, friend, partner. They were trying to invent a instantaneous plaster cast for broken limbs.
Right. They didn't seem to succeed then.
Well, I think they did. But what happened was they invented this chemical which, hardened immediately.
Right.
And they had to try and find they tried several hundred different nozzles for delivery.
Yep.
And they came across one which, shot a steady stream large distance.
Okay.
And they marketed this as he realised what he had on his hands, marketed it as a toy.
Right.
And the rest, as they say.
Okay.
So, there we go.
That's it. And, yeah, it's apparent in this scene that it's a new thing. So I think that ties in with your timeline pretty well. But Roger Stanford, as we're about to find out.
Yeah, we learn he is a Mr. Stanford, so you had assumed that anyway.
Yeah.
That is confirmed. I think the secretary calls through that Mr. Buckner is waiting for him in his office.
Yeah, which is a bit interesting because you're seeing he's in Stanford Chemicals, he's Mr. Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Mr. Buckner? What's going on here? Why is someone who's not Stanford calling him in?
Yeah. So the secretary appears and she's quite harassed, and I think she speaks to him, and what does she say?
Well, I think we've got a clip, so we'll take a quick listen to this.
What were you doing in your dark room?
Now, don't you worry. You were underexposed.
You didn't. You didn't develop those pictures.
So even in 1970, it reminded me of 2014.
Yeah. Who's got access to
pictures? And it shows you it's not just an internet-driven phenomenon.
Yeah, obviously it's a related but slightly different set of concerns here because she has no control over the image.
No.
Whatever it showed.
We can only guess.
Yeah, or imagine.
We can only imagine. Don't imagine that, Ian, please.
No, I'm working right now.
Okay.
It's okay.
So we learn that this Mr. Buckner is in fact his uncle.
We do.
And okay, well, what do we learn?
Yeah, the secretary tells him that his uncle's very upset, but he isn't that concerned, and he interrupts her because he sees a bag and a coat lying at the side of the room, and he wants to talk to her about that.
This is his uncle's bag and coat. He's going away for the weekend up to his cabin, his weekend getaway.
Yeah, and it becomes apparent that he has a plan here, and this is something he expected. So he is taking advantage of this opportunity.
That's a good point. This again shows a level of premeditation.
Yeah, this stage, what he does here is crucial in the ultimate murder.
Yeah, I mean, this threat that we'll talk about shortly, which we believe to be the motive, is obviously not the motive in the sense that he's already decided that he's going to kill his uncle anyway. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because he's obviously putting his plan in motion. He's developed the explosives in the opening scene.
Yeah. So before he's still at this moment in the secretary's office.
Yeah.
What he does is he surreptitiously takes.
Well, he sends her to the cabinet to get cigars, so she's not paying attention.
While she's doing that, he takes a cigar case, a cigar holder for
small,
3 or 4. Yeah, you don't see those about these days, do you? Have you ever seen someone pull out a cigar holder?
Smoking in general is so much less commonplace that you just don't see that sort of thing.
Okay, so what does he do? He takes that.
He wipes it clean of fingerprints and slides it under her desk.
No, not at that point.
Right?
No, I think he
hides it away.
He hides it away in his. He secretes it on his person.
He does.
And then goes into the meeting with his uncle.
Yes.
And there's a chap standing behind the uncle we come to know as Quincy.
Yes.
So what happens in this scene, Ian?
Okay, so he's been pulled through. He discovers, or we discover, that the man is his uncle by marriage, married to his aunt.
17 years ago, I think.
And he's been presented with a statement to sign, saying that he approves the sale of the company and he doesn't want to work there anymore. He's off to do something else.
Yeah. I mean, what is happening here? This is a family business.
Yes. Well, it's previously belonged, we assume, to Stafford's father.
Yeah, it was set up, established by Roger Stafford's father.
Yes.
They are no longer with us, we understand, presumably. Yeah. His aunt has married David Bruckner.
Yes.
Who runs the company.
Yes.
And he's now decided that, for whatever reason, he's going to sell it to a conglomerate.
Yeah. We get quite a bit of
businessman.
Conglomerate, yeah. We get quite a bit of exposition here because we learn that Roger Stanford Jr. doesn't have enough stock to prevent the sale, but
he has
his
influence.
aunt's share is enough, and she is influenced by him.
Not just his aunt, but the rest of the employees or the staff. I think the uncle wants him to put out a positive message.
Yeah.
So as not to worry staff about potential job losses.
Yeah, I mean, I think we learn that the vice president is opposed to the sale, so there's obviously some kind of internal division. Yeah. So presumably the uncle wants to try and calm that down as best as possible.
So here's the thing. It's obviously, again, we're looking back from now 2015, and to me, this is not what you would class as a major issue here. This is no reason for, well, there's never a reason really to kill someone in this position, but a businessman selling to another large company, that's the way of the world. However, I suppose if we look back to the 70s where jobs were sort of guaranteed for life, there was less upheaval, things were more stable, it's probably a fairly major...
I think there's an emotional side to it as well. It's been his father's business. His father presumably is dead. He probably doesn't want it to become just another major international corporation. I think he feels there's maybe something emotional there. There's some kind of intangible family element to the business that he doesn't want lost.
Yeah, the issue I have is that I don't in any way I have no problem with Bruckner's position, especially considering the attitude and behaviour of the apparent or the obvious heir to the throne. Roger acts like an immature playboy type. He doesn't. I would not want the company. I think it'd be, if I was the employees, I would be more inclined to have another serious business buy over the company and run it properly and put it in the hands of Roger, who maybe will run it.
Well,
run it
I
into
think
the
though,
ground.
from Roger's point of view, more cynically speaking, beyond all the emotional ties to his father, he maybe sees that as things are, he's going to get this company one day.
Yeah.
When his aunt dies, presumably, or passes it on to him.
That is, yeah,
he's next in line.
We're told that later in the episode.
So that's maybe a more practical reason why he would be so vehemently opposed to any kind of transaction. He would then, all he would get is the value of his shares, which presumably is not significant.
So Roger is not particularly, happy to go along with this statement that's been prepared.
No.
And he's disagreeing. So the uncle, Bruckner, plays his sort of ace card.
Yeah.
And he tells Roger that Quincy, his sort of
chauffeur / private detective,
has been doing a bit of digging and has come up with some dirt on Roger, which doesn't look particularly great for him.
Some indiscretions from his past.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mentioned this to you. Again, these days it seems not much at all. Some gambling, he stole a car, drugs perhaps, but nothing that they don't even threaten him with the police or the authorities. It's more about, I'm going to tell your aunt.
Yeah. Now, when I spoke to you about this earlier, the theory that I had was the aunt finding out about this might lead to her being less inclined to follow his advice and maybe just going ahead with the sale anyway.
That's the only thing I can think of.
The other thing that has just occurred to me is the aunt finding out about this might lead her to disinherit him, so he would never inherit her share of the company and therefore would never get to take it over. Yes,
that's a possibility, but if you look at the relationship, she obviously sort of dotes on him. That could easily be passed off. Well,
but she's obviously under the influence of her husband to a certain extent. Not entirely, because she seems to be an independent woman, as we do see. But if you've got the husband or the uncle there talking negatively about the young man, you've got now news stories. It could end in a breakup of that aunt-nephew relationship completely.
Sure. I was going to say there, he could pass it off, in terms of sort of youthful indiscretions. He was in his 40s when he filmed this. It was Rowdy McDowell.
Yeah.
Might be worth talking about him just now. Probably most people will be aware of.
Before we get into Rowdy McDowell, though, can I mention one other thing I noticed from this scene? Because
I know are you going to say this? I've got a note here as well. He has a painting of himself.
Yes, that's the exact thing. Bruckner has a picture of himself on his desk.
Yeah, I noted that. It's not a picture. It looks like a painting.
Yes.
A small painting, not even a large one that you'd put up on your wall.
Yeah. Look at facing himself on his desk.
That's where you would put a picture or a photo of your family, your wife or your kid, whatever. Yeah, he's got a painting of himself. I think
for me that made me much less sympathetic towards him. I think that was designed to highlight.
Okay.
Yes. But yes, Rowdy McDowell.
Rowdy McDowell, yeah. Again, needs very little introduction. Sadly, passed away in 1998. A lot of movies, a lot of TV work. Certainly for me, most famous for the Planet of the Apes series of films where he played Cornelius and Caesar.
I think we've already touched the fact I've not seen those.
Yes. Fright Night. Have you?
Nope.
Oh, Ian, you've not seen Fright Night. Peter Vincent, the
Can't say I've ever heard
vampire.
of Fright Night.
There was a remake recently with Colin Farrell and what do you call him? Scottish Doctor Who.
Tennant?
Yeah, David Tennant.
Not seen that either.
Decent remake.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. But you should, I feel like a sort of camp horror movie.
I'm not a big horror fan.
Yeah, it's not an out and out. Let's say it's a comedy horror.
Right. Okay.
But he played Peter Vincent in that.
Okay.
And he was also in Fantasy Island with a number of other of his short fuse co-stars.
Okay.
While we're talking about co-stars, James Gregory played David Buckner. He died in 2002, and he has been in 2 Colombo episodes. Obviously this one and The Most Crucial Game.
I don't even know what series that's from, but I'm looking forward to it.
We shall get to it.
He had an interesting voice. He had such a deep voice, this guy.
Yes.
Very distinctive.
I think most of his roles he plays, that's what he plays upon. That's one of his key attributes.
Right.
Okay. So where do we go from?
He goes back out. Roger leaves. Well, Roger kind of seems to concede that he'll sign this.
Yeah.
a bit to the surprise of his uncle. He doesn't think he would have given in so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he has an ulterior motive going on. But he leaves that office anyway and goes back out to where the secretary is, and we kind of get the idea that maybe there's something between Roger and the secretary.
Yes, well, and also at that point, as he's leaving, a number of other executives,
Including the vice president.
including the vice president.
Is it Logan?
Logan, yes.
Yeah.
We'll get to Logan. Logan's interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, he goes back out to the sort of secretary's outer office. He embraces her, and we see him dropping the aforementioned stolen cigar case under a desk.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. And he kind of just knocks it under there a little bit.
And we then go to the exterior again of the plant.
Yeah, you didn't like this scene very much.
Well, it's not that I didn't like it. I thought it was hugely risky in terms of his overall
Deeply
plan.
flawed.
Deeply
Yes.
flawed. Actually, it reminds me of the Murder by the Book I mentioned in that
With the
episode.
lighter.
No, when Ken
Yes,
shoots
when he's-
on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It was so risky. It had Jim Ferris shouted his name or said something.
Yeah.
And again, guns can misfire. I didn't mention that in the particular episode, but sometimes a gun can misfire, and you have to you'd have to have shoot. And he was on the phone. It wasn't a recording. He was live. So yeah. Anyway, this particular scene, the chance and the risk of it coming off was incredible. So what happens is he goes out, and there is a chap called Fergie.
Yes.
Seems like some sort of general maintenance dog's body type character.
Yeah.
He is polishing Bruckner's limousine.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger asks him to have a look at his car, which is parked beside it. Says there's some sort of problem, and he flips the bonnet off the car and is looking inside at the engine.
Yeah.
Whilst he's doing that, Roger takes this opportunity to open up the limousine and remove some loose cigars from the dash or the glove box. Anything else?
He takes the stash of cigars out of the glove box and he swaps over the cigar boxes.
He does. Now, my problem with this is that Fergie could have looked up at any point and saw him and catch him in the act of messing about in the car.
Yeah.
Even at the time, if he didn't see anything, any good cop like Colombo would have spoken to him, or could have spoken to him anyway, and he would have admitted to seeing him messing about in the car hours before the car exploded. So yeah, quite a not a well thought out rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your thoughts?
I thought it was a little bit fortunate. I'm not sure that he expected Fergie to be there. So presumably his original plan just involved doing the old switcheroo with the cigar boxes. But yeah, his way of diverting Fergie's attention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about engines to say is this a job that would have taken a good 3 minutes for him to check thoroughly. Or
Yeah, but even if it
did, I suppose he could have
looked up to mention something or speak to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not great. I think it's another interesting thing that I noticed in this episode, and I think Fergie's a good point to bring it in. How many of these episodes feature people with money and or staff working for them, wealthy people? We saw it not so much in episode 1, although I presume the authors were fairly well off it, and Ken had his house by the beach and so on. Episode 2, you had a very wealthy man whose wife was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 3, you had the retired military fellow with the massive marina house. Episode 4, you had the art collection in the big house with the staff.
Yeah.
Last week again, it was a well-off family with a big house. It seems to be a lot of rich folk getting involved in crime.
I think that the answer to that is that because of the relationship aspect of the show and because of the personality traits of Colombo, i.e. being very self-effacing, he needs to play against a person who is conceited, who is arrogant, who believes him to be above Colombo. Your average Joe Schmo on the street would not necessarily, or be unrealistic to expect them to have that level of arrogance. So it has to be someone with power and therefore money,
right,
who takes that position of looking down upon the cops. Because most people are intimidated, even by Colombo, the police chap your door. you naturally feel intimidated and nervous.
Yeah.
So it has to be someone who's used to getting their own way in order to allow Colombo to...
Sure. I suppose the bigger houses make for better sets as well.
Yeah.
A bit more impressive. And actually, we got an interesting note from one of our listeners since the last episode about the house in episode 2.
Okay.
It was the house used in the Bodyguard movie with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I've not researched that. I'm going to trust him completely on that.
Yep.
I think it's a very nice sort of little factoid there.
Yeah. I think there are, even within Colombo, there are several reworkings or reuses of sets and properties within the series itself. And actually, while we're mentioning that, this is I didn't do a massive amount of research, but if anyone can confirm or, in fact, deny, when we go to the aunt and the aunt and uncle's house later in the episode, is that the same house that, this won't mean much to you, Ian, but is that the same house which is used in Fade In to Murder with William Shatner? Because the door appears to be the same door that Columbo has issues and problems with leaving during that particular episode. So if anyone can confirm that, I would very much appreciate it.
If they could confirm it without giving any spoilers, I would appreciate that also. That would be great.
Good point. Okay.
Back to where we were with the cars, because he doesn't even get to leave before his uncle shows up.
His uncle and Quincy, who now is changed role to chauffeur, puts on his cap and drives him, is driving him.
This shows it was obviously imperative for him to make the switch quickly and immediately. Mm-hmm. So he had to improvise if he wasn't expecting Fergie to be there.
True, but he could have, if he's going, he could potentially have done it another day, or perhaps it is a time constraint.
I'm not even sure that he... Yeah, I think you can maybe forgive him on the planning when it was a last minute thing, but it was a very risky decision.
So the drive off, and there's a nice shot focusing on the wing mirror of the car as it leaves.
My note is it's not dissimilar to the shot in episode 2, Death Lends a Hand with Brimmer's glasses, where you've got the still around the outside and then within the frame of the reflective thing, the lenses in that episode and the mirror.
I think it worked perhaps better. It was less intrusive. It was less obvious here. I thought it was a nice shot. Yeah. So we then go to, it's a nighttime exterior, and there's two sort of scenes here which switch between each other.
Spliced between the two. You come back and forward. You've got a lightning storm,
thunder and lightning,
low visibility. Quincy and Buckner in the car.
We see them driving. Yes. Yep. It's a winding road. It's obviously not a freeway or a highway.
Yep.
They're going up a winding path. This is up to the getaway, the cabin in the country or the hillside.
Yeah, and you've got Roger and the secretary in a club, a plan that you heard him making earlier.
He's smoking a cigar. Cigars obviously play
Which
a very...
from the car.
Yeah.
I think we saw him take them from the car.
He did. They play, obviously cigars playing a very prominent role in this episode.
Yes, I wondered, is he setting up an alibi here, or is this just something he likes to do? Does he just want to be out with her? It's not clear.
Yeah, it's not clear. Again, this I think is one of the weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think
this could have been
doesn't
firmed
need
up more.
to set up an alibi.
He doesn't,
because he's not going to be there at the crime.
Of course.
Well, he could have gone home and been with his aunt, and as long as he wasn't on his own. But in any event, he's with the secretary around the club. Again,
great music. There's a sort of 70s blues rock feel to it. There's a girl dancing in the bar. It's just it's a very much of its time scene. And
there's a good bit now, which again we'll come back to later, where you see a silent conversation between Buckner and Quincy.
Yep. You also, which it comes back to as well, you see that sort of flashback to the clock timer from the opening scene. Where he's obviously... So, this device, again, just to explain, it's effectively it's a bomb in a cigar case.
Yes.
And when the lid is opened, there's perhaps
the 60-second timer.
60-second timer. So we see this, a flashback to this timer.
Yeah.
And we see Roger is checking his watch as there is an explosion.
Yes.
So this is a new type of murder for Colombo, or in the Colombo in the show.
I've got a note here. First indirect killing in the series so far.
It's the first. It's impersonal. Is it? Yeah, it's the first. No one's shot or been bludgeoned.
Yeah, there's not any face-to-face element to it at all.
Yeah. Far more dramatic.
Definitely.
And also, he kills an innocent... Quincy's obviously involved, but on his own, he's still quite happy to kill someone.
I think he would have had to get rid of Quincy anyway because of the information that Quincy had gathered. So if Quincy was alive, if he'd found a way to kill him without killing Quincy, the information he goes on to plant would have been discredited by Quincy.
Yes, true. But again, Quincy's just acting like a cop in that sense, that he's got information that could be damaging.
Yeah.
Quincy himself is only working on the orders or on behalf of the boss.
Yeah, but I think, you said earlier you don't even think the boss deserved to die, so I don't think either of them deserve to die.
No.
But I think that Quincy is as much a necessary victim of the plan as the uncle. I don't think he's just collateral damage. I think he has to be a victim, deliberate victim.
Yeah. But he's certainly the most sort of cynical killer we've had so far.
Cold-blooded, I suppose. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
We see Roger arriving back home in a sports car. I don't know, is it a Jag or?
I wasn't clear on that. I'm not a big car person, but I presume this was his aunt's house.
Yeah, it took a while to work out. So there appears to be 3 houses on this one estate. His house, which is a sort of guest cottage, I think he says, behind the main house.
Do we see that? I don't even know that we do see that.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. And then we have Quincy.
He's above the shed, basically.
Above the
garage.
The garage, or the garage.
However you want to say it.
However you want. Okay. So what happens here is we see Quincy. We see Roger. Going up to Quincy's apartment.
Obviously, I assumed it was his own.
At first,
it's not apparent.
No.
He goes in there, types something on a typewriter.
We hear this, we don't see it.
Yeah. Yes, and we hear the typewriter sounds again.
Yep.
That we've talked about so many times. It's a great sound. He goes back into the car with whatever it was he typed, places it in the car, locks the car, closes the garage, goes to head upstairs.
Why is he getting back up?
I'm not sure. And then you hear Colombo's entrance music starts playing, and he comes in.
And he startled.
There's no actual music, but Colombo shows up.
He's startled to see Colombo at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah. And Colombo's been talking to the aunt, and then we get the Colombo in his car looks shabby trope coming back in. And Colombo, he says something to Colombo about the accommodation, and Colombo says, "Oh, I need to take a look." He goes in. There's nothing obvious there because obviously it was just a lie that he told him.
Mm-hmm. So we go to the aunt and the uncle's house, and we find out that Bruckner has apparently disappeared, and there has been threats to him.
Yeah, we heard about the stench bomb in the yard. There's been threats relating to the sale. The impression being given that there's a major opposition to this.
Like I say again, it's really, even in the 70s, would there be such a...
Well,
somebody wants to sell a business?
We later learned that there wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's the impression Roger's trying to give.
But that's what I'm saying. If you're going to, you have to try and give an impression, you have to make it believable.
I don't know why he tries to give that impression. I suppose in case they find it was a bomb and he can try and say it wasn't him. But that, I don't know. I don't know what his thought... You're never really given any insight into his thought process.
Oh.
You're left to kind of work it out from what he does, which isn't always logical.
No. So, like I say, we find out that, Bruckner was on his way up to this holiday cabin. The cabin itself has an sort of aerial tram, cable car.
I would call it a cable car.
Cable car, yep. But he wasn't going to use it. He is going to drive up on this particular day. And again, at first I was unsure why Colombo was there. So it's not even a disappearance of a fully grown man after a few hours.
Yeah.
And you've got a homicide cop there. What happens is, we find out that the aunt has called in a favour from the commissioner, who has promised that he would send his best man.
Yes, and Colombo's quote here is good. He says, "Well, my wife, she says I'm second best, and there's 80 guys tied for first."
Do we have a quote for that?
A clip?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, we could get one. Hang on. Let's use the magic of the internet.
Roger, I called the commissioner of police, and he said he'd send over his very best man.
Is that a fact? Well, my wife, she says I'm second best, but she claims there are 80 fellas tied for first.
It's brilliant.
So again, another mention of family and the wife.
Well, yeah, again, this has been built up right from the start of the series, that this is something that he does, and that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. We then listen to an answer machine message, which has been called in from the car that Bruckner was.
Yeah, it was called at 7:30, and you get a strange moment there where it kind of fades in and back out. I don't know if that was originally an ad break or what it was done, but
No, I think it was
just an effect.
an effect, a technique that was being used. Yeah. And we hear Bruckner on the phone, and he's telling his wife that Roger will be coming over this evening to stay in.
But this is interesting because this is the silent conversation that we saw before.
Yes.
What he's saying and what they're doing fits exactly with what we saw a couple of scenes earlier, and it's really quite clever. I like it.
It was clever. It was nice. And he says that Roger's made a decision which he thinks is for the best.
Yeah.
Now, Colombo. Okay.
He knocks the glass over. Was
Well,
it
no,
deliberate?
no. Before this, and I think this is again a real weakness. I think there's not been enough time has been spent, fleshing out this particular sort of clue or suspicion
Angle,
yeah. It's one of these ones where Colombo just seems to instinctively know who the killer is, the murderer is, and then chase down clues which prove his
assumption.
Mm-hmm. So while we're listening to this telephone message, we see Roger becoming quite anxious and looking at his watch.
Yeah.
And Colombo notices this.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could signify anything. It could signify that Roger has got an important date or a hot date lined up for.
It could just be a nervous.
He and he wants to be out of there. But somehow, because at this point as well, there's no even suspicion of a death or an accident. It's simply the car's disappeared.
Yeah, it's interesting because Columbo says this recording shows exactly why everyone is so concerned.
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
No, they talk and then
he hangs up.
At the end of it.
During the call, or towards the end of the call, or right at the end of the call, I can't remember exactly at what point, Columbo sees Roger looks nervous and he knocks over a glass and gives him a fright. I thought it was deliberate. I thought he knocked that glass over to see the reaction, but I suppose it could have been an accident.
No, I think it was deliberate.
Yeah, but again, what's he trying to prove? Oh, this guy's anxious.
Yeah, doesn't prove it. I mean, it's not going to prove anything, but perhaps
I suppose it gives him a lead in the direction
in
he
his
wants to
mind.
go.
Yes, it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from there?
Roger seems to kind of be rushing Columbo out at that point, and Columbo asks him whether he thinks David could have been stopping for a rendezvous and a liaison with a young lady. Mm-hmm. And that's why he hasn't arrived where he was meant to be. But
also, I mean, the aunt, she questions Roger why he's so upset, and in front of Columbo, suggests that they didn't like each other anyway.
Yeah.
And Roger claims that they were growing fonder of each other.
Yeah, which is nonsense and completely out of sync with everything that comes after it.
And then Roger insists that Columbo does everything he can to find them.
Roger's he's very erratic in this scene. He kind of lurches from one emotion to a different emotion, and you can see why Columbo might think it's a bit weird.
Yeah,
but not. Yeah. Anyway, Columbo asks him if he thinks it could have been a rendezvous, and Roger says...
A visit. I think he uses the word visit.
Yes, I've used the word rendezvous to kind of, But Roger gathers himself and says it's none of his business and it's none of Columbo's business either.
And then there's an almost, again, it's a one more thing, but not quite.
He doesn't say it, but it is a one more thing. He asks him about checking his watch.
He stops you, asks him if his watch is broken, and
he does the big too defensive thing where he's got a perfect answer.
Yeah. And his aunt... This closing of this scene, we have the aunt asking Roger why he was coming to see her that evening, and Roger says nothing important. I have decided to work within the finance department.
Legal department, he says.
I thought it was finance.
Legal.
Are you sure?
Well, we can check, but I'm pretty sure it's the legal department.
Okay, I think it's finance. One of us is going to look a fool.
Yes.
Okay, we'll find out.
We will.
Okay, where do we go? We go to the Sky. This cable car.
Yes.
This Sky tram.
I presume they're not called cable cars in America, then they don't ever use that in the episode.
They don't. Cable car, Sky tram, I don't know, magic train.
Yeah.
We're inside this, and it's over some very mountainous terrain.
Yeah, and you can see Columbo's just as queasy as he was on the boat in episode 3.
Yeah, dead weight.
Yeah.
And he's looking terrified, to be honest, and I think he's with a local cop.
Sheriff, yep.
Sheriff, and he's telling him about the 2,000-foot drop, which isn't helping. Some great aerial, some great photography, some great shots. It looks lovely. I'd
be interested to know. I presume that is an operating cable car. It'd be interesting to know what it serves. Is it a skiing resort? What is it? Anyone knows? They can maybe let us know.
Okay. And we arrive at the top of this, and Colombo a light, and he looks very sort of relieved but unwell.
Yeah.
And we then get down sort of the mountainside, and he's told that there was a report of an accident.
Yeah, there's a shiny bumper that they found.
Yep, and we see a body being lifted by a crane from some sort of ravine.
Yep.
And we're told that it is Quincy's body and that Bruckner's is being removed next.
Yes.
So it's been identified as
a death, yeah.
a death.
And Columbo refuses at that point to step out on the ledge and look down.
And then there's discussion as to whether or not it was an explosion. And I think they suggest,
Yeah, they go over a couple of possibilities.
It could be a gas tank, which would be the sort of obvious one. Some sort of malfunction and then a crash.
Yeah.
Again, is there any... can we identify, at this point in the episode, is there anything that would suggest foul play?
Other than Roger being a bit erratic.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing here. The obvious assumption is car crash.
Yeah, but it's clear from very early on that Columbo's no interest in it being a car crash.
No, because...
He wants it to be a murder.
Yeah, he does.
I suppose that's his job, but he wants there to have been a murder here that he can solve.
Yeah, but both him and the cop seem to agree and accept immediately that there was some sort of foul play. But again, nothing.
Yeah.
No evidence at all.
No, there's not. Well, there's bits and pieces, like some things have been found whole and some things have been destroyed. And I'm not sure if that's this scene or the next time they go back to the crime scene. But
well, we're back to the aunt's home.
Yes.
And she is upset and unhappy that there may be a suspicion of foul play. So Columbo has obviously broached the subject.
I'm not sure about her being unhappy. She questions it, but the phrase she uses is "dead is dead," as if it doesn't matter whether he was killed. He's still dead.
Oh, come on! Of course, she must be.
But that's what she says. She says "dead is dead." I suppose it doesn't matter. Dead is dead. So I suppose from her point of view, she's lost her husband either way, and maybe it's just at that moment she doesn't care. Obviously, different people react to things in different ways. Some people would be desperate to know, and other folk would just not want to think about it.
Okay. They're talking to Logan.
Yes.
He's a sort of senior executive. Is he the...
He's the vice president that we talked about. He was opposed to the sale. And
he seems like some sort of confidant. He's not just another employee. He seems to have some sort of sway.
Yeah, there seems to be a relationship between
them. And they tell him that Buckner had decided to put Roger into the
legal department.
Finance department.
It's the legal department.
Okay. And she talks about how she wished that Roger and Buckner could have got on better, and that she had hoped that Roger might have been in charge one day. So that does sort of back up our
that why thinking. She would have been opposed to the sale and so on. Yeah.
And why we think that Roger can assume that he would have been taking over the company in due course,
and why he would have been so concerned about her getting the information about him.
And she now this is the thing, yeah. So she wants reassured that he was not murdered at the end of this scene.
Well, I think she finds it hard to believe, and she just wants reassurance that she's not crazy to find it hard to believe.
But again, this highlights the cynical and cold-blooded nature of this particular killing. It's very, very personal.
Yeah.
It's, his aunt obviously loved her husband. She's been looking after him.
Yeah.
So it's a really nasty, cynical, horrible killing here. It's not strangers or someone who's doing you a great disservice.
The impression we get about Roger is he's a bit of a spoiled child, maybe, and he clearly has freedom to do whatever he wants in his lab. He doesn't have many limits put on him. He flinches around wherever he wants to go, acts how he wants to act. So maybe you can understand that not getting his own way with this thing is something that he would react badly to. So maybe he's a bit immature, and that's why he's had such an extreme reaction.
Okay. We're then back in his dark room.
Yeah, this is a good scene. We heard at the top of the show a bit.
And Columbo enters, and there's a red light, and he's spraying foam. So he picks up this canister of silly string.
Yeah.
And what? Okay.
He sprays it in him. Well, he picks up this canister, and I don't know if aerosols were new, because why would you spray something in your face? But he sprays the silly string in his own face, and it all goes in his hair, and of course it's harmless. And Roger engages in a little bit of banter with him.
He comes out covered in this string, and the two of them laugh at each other. Or laugh at Colombo. But I think, again, this is a deliberate attempt to disarm. So Colombo's playing the fool, quite happy to be the butt of the jokes in order to...
Yeah, and from this scene until more or less the end of the episode, Roger does not leave Colombo's sight, which I found bizarre.
Not just that, he's picking... He's delicately picking at his hair, removing the foam, the string.
Yes.
Like a mother would a small child.
Colombo talks to him about the darkroom, and he's saying, you can have all kinds of experiments, including nitroglycerin. What? Why would you mention that? Why would you bring up the idea of I don't know. Unless he's trying to make it sound so ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, what also happens in this scene is Colombo, and this is again another sort of tactic that's used often, is Colombo deflects the conversation, changes the conversation onto something more trivial, just at the point where he's about to deliver some information, in order to see, how if Roger will bring it back on track. Yeah, and it's a tactic that's used often. Yeah, and it tends to be towards the end of an episode where the person's becoming anxious and doesn't wants to go on with things. Yeah. And we find out at this point as well that Roger, he has a PhD in chemistry, or just called chemistry, an MBA, and is also a lawyer. A lawyer. Probably more suited to the legal department. I'm not conceding defeat as yet.
We'll check the tapes.
Okay. So we then go back out to the exterior of the plant. Yeah.
Colombo has a nice little conversation with Roger where he explains that he dropped chemistry in his junior year of high school for woodwork because he needed one more exam.
And all he had to do was build a birdhouse or something?
I can't remember exactly what it was. A spice rack or a bird table or something like that. But
so Colombo asks if it's possible to have some sort of chemical trigger for a bomb.
Yeah, out of nowhere he comes up with the idea of a bomb.
Yeah.
Although, I say out of nowhere, Roger's just talked about nitroglycerin literally seconds earlier.
And also on the hillside, they assumed it was a bomb rather than a gas tank explosion.
Yeah. It's still, I still don't understand why he's jumped to this conclusion, but I suppose it's his way.
Yep. And Roger realises that Colombo thinks that a bomb was placed in the cab.
But he quite correctly points out that there are a significant number of PhDs and many, many more additional people with access to facilities.
And the skills to do this, and also the means in terms of worried about their employment.
Yep, so even if it was a bomb, doesn't mean that it was Roger's bomb.
No.
And the scene ends, I think we've got a clip that we're going to listen to in a second with the final exchange of this scene, which I think is brilliant. We just take a quick listen.
I have my own personal lead in this case.
You have?
Do you remember that recorded telephone message on your aunt's phone?
Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to that over and over again. It's all right in there. And I'll tell you what, good cigar. This is one area that I do know about.
It's brilliant. Colombo and his cigars. He's a cigar expert, so he is this case sewn up.
He certainly smokes enough of them, but in terms of the cigars, do you know much about Colombo's, no, any brands or anything?
I just know that he smokes cigars, and obviously in this moment he claims to be a cigar expert. Yeah.
I don't think he is. There's he's certainly an expert in smoking them. However, it's often asked, what type of brands did he smoke? And I think someone actually on Twitter, Bill on Twitter recently asked this question, and I think the answer is generally accepted that there was no particular brand. He picked up any cheap ones, whatever was lying about. The prop department just would give him whatever they could get their hands on. Peter Falk himself was a cigarette smoker. Didn't really smoke cigars.
Okay.
So,
although it's pointed out in this episode that the ones that the Buckner and Logan have are expensive illegal Cuban cigars.
Okay. we're back
In fact, this is where we find that out. We're back in the office with Miss Bishop, the secretary.
Yep. So Colombo talks about on the tape that he talks about the cigars being missing, which we hear on the tape.
Yes.
Okay. Talk me through this scene, Ian.
Okay, so Miss Bishop opens her drawer, and the cigar case is there, and Colombo immediately reacts with, the speed of a jungle cat to say, "Don't touch it."
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Well, the cleaner handed it to me. It was under my desk. It had obviously fallen out of the overcoat."
And Colombo's
he's
disappointed.
clearly disappointed in this.
Again, this is one of the times where he's obviously got this theory. The evidence
this has been swiped.
Disputes the evidence disputes or disproves, or disputes certainly, what he believes. But rather than going with the evidence,
he sticks with his gut instinct.
So yeah.
At this point, though, we start seeing Roger taunting Colombo.
Well, he understands Colombo's theory.
Yeah,
that the killer, had wanted, Buckner to open up a box in the car, and he explains that to Valerie, his secretary, or Buckner's secretary. Yeah. And Valerie tells Colombo that she was at the movies on the night of the accident. Now, again, we mentioned this. There's no real reason for any of this sort of alibi.
No.
This alibi to be of any use or value.
No. I don't understand, because she wasn't at the movie. She was at the club. She doesn't want to admit she was at the club with Roger. She doesn't
because
want
we're having
an
affair. Yeah.
So she has to come up with a story, and once she's lying, she's compromised, and that helps him.
That makes sense now. Yeah.
She also points out to Colombo here that Roger never touched the cigars because she placed them on the jacket, and he was in the office, and she knows that he did not touch them.
And Roger in this scene suggests that the bomb could have been placed somewhere else.
Yeah, he says far too much. It's the typical Colombo killer curse. They can't keep their mouth shut.
No. But Colombo explains that he spoke to Ferguson.
Yep.
And he said that he'd sort of cleaned the car and there was nothing
else
there.
in it.
Although I'm sure
that's pretty shaky evidence, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, did Fergie go through?
Is he qualified to check for bombs?
Under all the seats, really? So,
not to mention that the bomb itself was planted after that check was done.
Yeah. I also noticed in this scene, you didn't notice, or you said that you weren't focused on his shirt in the opening scenes.
Yeah.
Did you notice how tight his trousers, his pants were in this particular scene? Oh, if you get a chance, go back.
Pants and his trousers?
American pants.
Okay.
I don't actually think he was wearing any British pants.
I don't want to know.
No.
I did not focus on that.
I couldn't help it.
Okay, well.
I try not to, but those were some tight garments he was wearing.
Sure.
I'm sure they were all the rage back
then. Quite like
then.
the ones that you wear to work.
They're not quite as tight. Getting there. So
we also learn right at the end of the scene Logan's got a cigar supply, so they all trot off to speak to Logan.
And we go to Logan's office.
Yeah, and the note I've got here is, why is Roger following Colombo everywhere he goes?
Yeah, he's a little
He's just trotting around with him. It's like Colombo's trying to do an investigation, and Roger's just like this little elf on his shoulder saying, there's no evidence here.
Yeah. So we meet Logan, who is played by William Wyndham.
Distinguished looking gentleman.
Do you recognise him?
I have to say he looked familiar, but I don't know what from.
Okay. He's been an awful lot over the years, died in 2012.
Right.
He was also in Escape from the Planet of the Apes. He played the president. But for me, certainly most famous for playing Dr. Seth Hazlitt in Murder, She Wrote. I
may or may not have seen that. I've seen a number of those episodes, but I don't remember.
Yeah, you probably will. He's been in most of them.
Okay.
So we find that there are boxes missing from his personal...
There's a box missing.
Or a box missing from his personal supply.
Yep.
And Colombo tells him not to touch any. They're going to get fingerprints checked out.
Logan's big concern here is that the press don't find out that there's a murder investigation happening.
Yeah. Well, what he says is he demands that there's no word is leaked to the press on such flimsy evidence.
Yeah.
And I would agree at this point, very flimsy evidence.
Yeah, and I presume that's because... Well, I don't know why. I mean, is he concerned it'll affect the business or affect the takeover? But he doesn't want the takeover.
I mean, I think he's a company man. He doesn't want any negative
press
or publicity about the company.
Or to protect the aunt, maybe.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, Roger explains the theory to Logan. And at the same time, this is another scene. Roger is messing about, taking pictures and photographs of them. I mean, Colombo
is he on drugs or something? I mean, is this the idea we're meant to get that he's on something?
Well, I mean, I was going to say that during the scene where he was looking at his watch, my first assumption would be that he is using drugs. Not that he's a potential car bomber.
Yeah.
He's obviously full of something.
Yeah. He acts that way.
He acts that way, jumping, jittering about, taking pictures. I would have grabbed that camera and
strangled him with the cord.
Or inserted it somewhere. But yeah, he's really...
Through his tight trousers.
He's really tight trousers.
Yes.
Okay, so we get back out to the exterior of the plant, and
it's not clear how much later, but we learn it's immediately after.
Yeah, and
Roger scoots by in a buggy to pick up Columbo, and starts offering theories. Why are you doing this, Roger? I don't understand how these people think.
No. So Colombo at this point tells Roger that he found a typed note from Quincy to Bruckner, saying that Logan was attempting to manipulate Roger. Mm-hmm. Now, this was the note that was written by...
It must be.
Roger.
See, I originally assumed that what he had found was the papers that Quincy had shown Roger about Roger. Mm-hmm. About the car stealing and the other youthful indiscretions, but no. Yeah, it's this other one that Roger's prepared. And
Roger attempts to throw him off the trail by mentioning other people who may be involved or may have reasons.
Yeah, we also learn Quincy the next cop, and that Roger happens to have learned a pseudonym by playing cards with him.
Yep.
Interestingly, I like this line from Columbo because it's a nod to what I've just been saying about the killers giving too much information. And Columbo says, "I knew you'd be a help to me." It's almost like a nod to that. Yeah. I knew you can keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Roger's sitting in his... Columbo leaves and Roger's in his car, and the Valerie, the secretary, she approaches, and she's worried that she's going to be found out to be lying about.
Yeah, and she's worried about the pictures still.
The picture,
and he basically treats her with disdain, which confused me because does he not have a concern that she might just suddenly start telling the truth?
But, yeah, I mean, that's again another case where you might fear for her safety.
Yeah, but he isn't even nice to her to keep her sweet and on side and, backing him up. He treats her quite cruelly here, and you'd think if she was a vindictive person or if she felt that she had nothing to lose.
Well, later on, towards the end, he packs her off to the desert with her
mother.
Well,
yeah, that's okay.
Well,
in terms of he's not being cruel to her, but at this point...
Well, he's been cruel in the sense that I think she probably seeks a relationship or thinks of some sort of relationships, and him, and he's basically saying, on your bike.
Yeah.
So emotionally cruel, I would suggest.
Yeah. I don't think he cares about her at all.
No, he doesn't. And she also reveals that she's been giving him these files.
Yeah.
On and different files of
Logan.
Yes,
that's the information that I was worried about, because he that information we're made aware of, and then he treats her badly, and I'm thinking, she could tell Columbo this. If she gets annoyed that he's treating her so badly, or that he's treating her in this way at this moment, she could make a bad decision. I think it's a crazy way for him to behave at that point.
Nice performance. Anne Francis was the actress, played Valerie. Right. Died in 2011. She was in Murder, She Wrote. She was in Fantasy Island as well. Okay. 2 episodes of Columbo. This plus A Stitch in Crime. And she was also in Beneath Planet of the Apes.
There's a whole Planet of the Apes contingent here.
I actually saw her in Murder, She Wrote yesterday. The pilot episode, The Murder of Sherlock Holmes, I think it's called. Right. It was on last night. I watched a bit of it, and I noticed her in there.
Yep.
So we then go to, where do we go to?
Oh, this is a scene that I hated. They go back to the accident scene. They found a bunch of evidence pointing to an accident. Essentially, the gas tank has ruptured and exploded.
Yeah.
And Columbo's like, evidence, I'm not interested in this.
Not just that. He says that the gas tank did explode, and that the autopsy was not helpful either.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, there you go, Colombo. In this particular instance,
You're wrong.
It's not a homicide. It's not some devious plot. It's a car crash.
Yeah.
But no.
No.
And so we then are at Quincy's hideaway apartment.
Well, yeah, you see Roger arriving in his car
Yeah.
with a typewriter under his arm.
So why does this is, again? This is just a sort of weakness in things. Why would Quincy, who's basically a hired help, does what he's told? Why does he get a hideaway
It
apartment?
wasn't clear to me. Does Quincy have a hideaway, or has Roger set this up?
I don't know.
It was
see,
kind
this
of weird.
Yeah, this is a script. It's not entirely clear, and it's again why it's. But you can tell it's a rushed job. This it's not. It isn't polished enough.
Yeah.
I can't even remember this. I mean, I may have missed it. I can't remember the hideaway apartment being discussed. I don't understand why some.
It is briefly discussed
Is it?
when he gives the pseudonym.
Okay.
He talks about there being another place that Quincy went to.
Yeah. So what happens is that Roger sort of again he doesn't even break in. He opens up the door,
Yeah.
so it's not locked.
No.
It's just lazy. Not even a. Yeah. Oh well. He opens the door and he leaves. He places the typewriter that he had typed the previous note
Yeah.
on
On the desk.
the desk.
Which implies that Quincy wasn't typing stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we only get threads here. We don't get anything coherent, really.
And then we see the same apartment, or the hideaway apartment, later in the evening.
and Roger's
It's
still there.
night time. Roger's still there waiting, and again, he's waiting on the cops turning up.
So he can be arrested with a document.
Yeah, but again, unless I'm missing something here, I may well have missed something. How did he know that the cops were going to turn up
I
that
don't know.
evening?
Unless he's tipped them off. Or
Again, if he did tip them off, we had to see that
he should
scene.
have shown that, yeah.
We might have missed something.
Possibly, but I don't recall anything even hinting at this.
Hmm.
Anyway, he makes a noise to make sure they know he's there.
Pretends to
They chase him
run.
up and down an alley, and then he gets arrested and taken home.
Okay, so we're
Sent off
back
to the
at
police station.
yeah, that's it. Again, so we're back at the aunt's house.
Yeah.
And we're, he's protesting that he can't explain at this point in time what he was doing.
Yeah.
And Colombo arrives and queries why. Well, firstly, he asks Roger why he knew that about Quincy's hideaway.
Yeah.
And again, this is a little bit annoying. He states that he didn't know that he had a hideaway or where the hideaway was, but that he knew a car salesman who did know.
Yes.
Now, either he's making that up, in which case that alibi or that's easily disproved,
Yeah.
or he did actually go and speak to a car salesman,
They
in
should have
which
shown us
case,
that.
that's a scene that we should have been privy to.
Yeah.
So again, another example of why it does appear to be a rush job.
Yeah, maybe not quite as tightly plotted as you would have liked.
Again,
Either or we're missing something. It could be that
Maybe
they're geniuses and we're not.
maybe it's been a long couple of weeks. We've been off for the festivities and I have been indulging
Well,
probably slightly too much.
there you go. But I don't recall
No.
anything that would help us with this.
So again, Roger begs to be able to speak to Colombo alone. He makes this apparent he can't speak in front of other people.
Yeah, he's got this plan here. He has been caught with a particular document.
Mm-hmm.
He wants his aunt to find out about it, but it to appear that he didn't want her to find out about it.
So other cops arrive, confirm that they found a typewriter and some sort of dossiers and files relating to Logan within Quincy's.
Yeah, but before this,
Apartment.
the aunt has found a report about Logan in the uncle's suit, which again presumably has been prepared by Roger and placed there.
And she says that she has burned those because she now understands that Bruckner was using Quincy
Yeah,
to spy on executives of the business. And
Yeah.
she was unhappy about that sort of unethical business practice.
yeah, but it gets a bit confusing then because you've then got evidence that, or falsified evidence that Quincy has supposedly got on Bruckner and the secretary.
Yeah.
But if he's working for Bruckner, why would he have that?
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. It's not coherent.
No. And the cop tells Colombo that when they captured the fleeing Roger,
Yeah.
he only had one envelope or one image, an envelope with an
Yeah.
image
Yeah.
and a negative on him.
Yeah.
And it was apparently showing the affair between Bruckner and Valerie,
Yeah.
the secretary. Now, okay, here's a question. Because what happens next is that the police officer holding this image walks directly to the aunt.
Yep. And she reads it.
And she sees it.
Yep.
Now, are we to believe, therefore, that at this point, Colombo is aware that this is effectively a 1971 Photoshop job? Because if not, this other cop is a damn fool. He walks right over insensitively to someone whose husband has just been killed.
Yeah.
Holding, he doesn't even put it back in the envelope, holding it an image of him having an affair.
I don't know what's
Madness.
going on here. I mean, the whole scene's a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
But Aunt Dory has decided that she wants it all burned anyway.
She does.
And I think...
Colombo says, I can't do that. It's
no, I think
evidence.
we've got this as a clip, so let's have a quick listen.
Now you've let her see the very thing I never wanted her to.
It's all right, Rog. I have to see things. I have to see everything. But I'm the only one, do you understand, Lieutenant? And I want this trash burned.
But, ma'am, we can't destroy evidence.
There's no evidence if there's no murder. And you haven't proved there was a murder.
But, ma'am, if we had a little more time...
Lieutenant, will you please get out of here and leave us alone?
Look, I'm sorry about what's happened here tonight.
Lieutenant, please get out.
So she's quite emphatically telling him to get out there. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't really listen. He kind of goes to leave and then eavesdrops from the corridor.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get any new information and he decides to leave. And Roger, obviously, a look of triumphalism on his face there.
Well, he is, again, quite callously telling his aunt that he knew about this affair.
Yeah, even
for
though,
a number of years.
Yeah, even though just a few scenes earlier he said how they were getting closer, the uncle and him.
Yeah.
Right at the start
and
of the show.
that he'd approached Bruckner about this infidelity and asked him to stop.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't, obviously. And the aunt now says, I understand why there's been
why he's poisoning me against you and all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, which is completely incompatible with his earlier statement about them being closer, and that's why he was upset.
And the scene ends with sort of him hugging his aunt and
Colombo leaves.
And he's got a creepy, smiley smirk. It's it's a nice, it's an enjoyable scene, but weird.
Well, you say enjoyable but frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Sure. We're back at the Stanford the offices.
Yep. Roger arrives by chauffeur now dressed in a suit.
Well, that's it. He's suited and booted. He is now very much the what would become a yuppie.
Yep.
No nonsense.
Yep.
The childish, immature sort of playboy lifestyle has gone.
Yep. And he acts surprised to learn that Miss Bishop has been fired.
Well, before that, he walks into the office. A couple of people refer to him
as junior. And he's not having it.
Not happy, and they immediately understand things are different now, and it's Mr. Stanford. Valerie sitting, crying at her desk. Yeah. Shows him the pink slip. She's been fired.
Yeah, he pretends he didn't know anything about it.
No.
And he's going to save the day.
And he says that, my aunt understands that you wanted to or your mother wanted to retire in the desert.
Arizona,
yeah. So you can go and do that. I'll cover the costs.
Yeah.
And gets her out of the picture.
That's her going, yeah.
Yeah. He gets into his office.
And the note I've got here, Colombo is going to show up soon.
You'd hope so.
And he does.
It does but what he does is he goes in and he places the painting of his uncle face down on the table. He then does the typical executive swirl on the chair. All new executives, when they first get your office in your executive chair, you must do a swirl, no matter what age you are.
I believe that's actually the law.
I think in 48 of the states in America,
they're much more laid back in Hawaii.
Yeah. So the secretary then sort of intercoms through and tells him that Colombo and Logan are there to see him.
Yeah.
Logan tells him that he's also been fired by his aunt. And Roger acts shocked, but effectively says, well, she's it's a family business now, or still is, and it's within her rights to do so. So, too bad.
Yeah, but Colombo wants the two of them to accompany him to the scene of the accident.
And at first, Roger is not particularly keen on doing so.
He's far too busy.
But Colombo hints that there might be some large piece of evidence or some.
They've found something.
And
which
also,
piques his interest.
Yep, and also Logan has said that the aunt will be up there, so he's going to go up and have a word with her about the firing.
Roger says he sent the aunt up to the cabin.
Yeah.
Which seems hugely insensitive when the guys died literally yards away from it.
Again.
And that's why I thought he wasn't telling the truth. I thought maybe he hadn't sent her away. That was an excuse so they didn't go and speak to her. But maybe he had. I don't think we ever really find out.
And Roger changes his mind and decides to accompany them up there. Colombo drives up.
Yeah, we've got our big denouement.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we see Colombo driving with his the car with the roof down. Yeah, so the car becomes more of a character in the show over the years, and I think this is one of the firsts. So all three get into the cable.
Well, before that, the sheriff hands over a bag.
Yes, so he does.
To Colombo.
They said they found something. Roger's obviously quite keen to find this out, but Colombo says, "We'll not get time. Let's get up there." The three of them get in the tram, the cable car. Interesting fact here: the operator of the tram who lets them in is Mr. Mike Lally, who is very, very well known to Colombo fans.
Okay.
Long time sort of extra. This is his first of 17 appearances in Colombo, and I think he's only in it from here until 1976.
5 seasons.
Yeah, so he's in just many of the future episodes.
So almost half the episodes. Yeah.
So
is he always playing the same role?
No. But a tram operator, that would be.
Well, it
odd.
could be a guy who changes job a lot.
Yeah, no, I don't think in most cases he's not even, a lot of the time he's not even credited.
Okay.
But they're always just bit parts, extras.
You can always imagine it was the same guy who keeps changing his job.
You could do. We'll chat about, we're going to do some different shows where we talk about the show itself.
Yeah.
So we'll speak about Mike Lally, who's a big part or very well known. Okay, so the
three of them get on anyway.
The three of them go on, and they open up. Colombo opens up the sack.
Well, before that, you're seeing he's still not comfortable in the cable car. He's not happy with the setting.
Roger at first seems sort of bored, just wants to get things over and done with.
Yeah, he doesn't know what they found.
No. And they open up. Colombo opens up the sack, reveals this cigar box.
Yeah.
And he says that there was not a bomb. It appears there wasn't a bomb. It was an accident. The gas tank did blow up.
Yeah.
But he then goes on to explain what his theory was. And
but before that, he starts talking about all the reports of Quincy's. He goes through what they all said, and Roger's going crazy about this. He doesn't like it.
Yeah, he does.
It's all private business stuff.
Yes, he's telling Logan why he was fired.
Yes.
Logan's getting angry and he's denying that he was involved in this. And Colombo is causing a lot of agitation. He starts to tell Logan about the supposed affair between Bruckner and Valerie. And so I think what he's doing here is
he's winding Roger up.
He's getting him in a sort of high state of alert.
Because obviously Colombo knows exactly what happened without any evidence.
Mm-hmm. And then Colombo, explains what he thought was his theory. And explains that what actually happened, that there was a bomb planted.
But obviously that couldn't be the case, because we've got the cigar box here.
Yeah. But obviously, as he has told Roger that it was in fact the gas tank, Roger now thinks that this bomb has not been detonated.
I don't think Roger's thought this through very clearly.
No.
I think if he was smart, maybe he's on drugs and he's not thinking properly, who knows. But it must have occurred to him that there's no way that the gas tank would have exploded coincidentally on the night that he'd sent a bomb.
Yeah.
When he knows from the tape that the box was opened.
Mm-hmm. Colombo also explains how about the sort of photo shopping, the trickery could have been carried out.
He knows everything.
He knows everything, the whole lot.
Oh yeah, he's seen everything.
And then we then get it's a nice scene. It's an enjoyable scene where Roger gets more and more panic-stricken. He implodes. He is really wound up. We see Colombo tapping and banging in the cigar case.
Yeah.
As the seconds tick by, we get a flashback to Colombo opens up the case. Therefore,
yes. So Roger's the timer's going.
Triggers a timer. Yeah. And the timer is going, and we see the flashback to the clock. And, so Roger is all over the place.
Yeah.
He then says, listen, we need to get rid of... He opens up the door.
Yeah, to the cable car.
Yeah. Oh my Colombo must have been worried.
Yeah, he must have started going...
Yeah, and he says, we need to get rid of this. There's a bomb. He drops the cigar case and the cigars
and they go everywhere.
Rolls everywhere. You see him scrabbling about on the floor, trying to pick it up.
And Colombo
picks one up and starts to...
Yeah.
Goes to light it.
And you basically end with Roger collapsing into maniacal laughter.
Well, what happens is, Logan says, "Where did you get these cigars from?" And Colombo says,
from your office.
From your office. And Roger understands
What's happened?
happened, and starts to that's exactly what I've got. Maniacally laughing, like a cartoon character actually.
That's how we end.
That's how it ends. He laughs, it echoes, and the episode ends.
Yeah. Now, I don't think they're going to get a conviction here.
There's not a lot of, other than obviously in Logan and Columbo, there's not a lot of witness to this particular.
There's not forensics to show it was a bomb.
Yeah.
All you've got is a theory with nothing to support it, other than that Roger acts a bit skeevy sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
even the fact that he collapsed.
It's similar to the death lens of hand with the contact lens in the boot.
Yeah, but Columbo's just spent 5 minutes talking about an exploding cigar, so Roger can only say, "Well, he'd convinced me. I was concerned."
Yeah, I would agree. In this case, I don't think you would get a conviction.
The other thing that worried me, and I've talked about it as we've gone through, is that Columbo doesn't seem to have any proof of anything in his theory. But not only that, there's no clear logical path from what Columbo knows to be true to the conclusion that he reaches.
Yeah.
So the only way for him to have reached that conclusion is to have devised the whole plot in his own head and then assumed it was true. We've seen this in the previous episode. I don't like it because it's not detective work.
No.
And this one, and I think the worst episode for it was episode 2, Death Lens of Hand, where Columbo had the theory and then tried to work everything around to fit in his theory.
I actually think this is weaker.
But since then, that was the previous worst.
Yeah.
This is worse. And I suppose perhaps because of the rush job that you were talking about earlier on, I just think it's not, you want to see Columbo working. I've only watched half a dozen episodes, but what I feel I want to see, like I saw in some of the episodes, is Columbo working things out. But he doesn't work anything out here. So I didn't like that, but I did find the episode entertaining because Roddy McDowall was exceptional and there was a strong supporting cast.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's a fair summary. It was an enjoyable but not special episode. I think there are certainly obvious weaknesses, but that has been accepted and admitted by the writers, by Peter Falk himself. I think everyone's aware of it. Yeah. So I think the good thing is that, had they spent the time on this and that's what the result was, you'd be unhappy or worried. Yeah. But I don't think that happens again.
Yeah. And I mean, we touched on this right at the start. It was very much the Roddy McDowall show. It wasn't really Columbo. Columbo was a peripheral character in this episode.
The whole episode was hanging on that performance.
Yeah.
They basically said, never mind the plot and the usual sort of Columbo stuff. Let Roddy do his thing and that will carry it. And to an extent, it did.
Yeah,
it was fine. It was fine. Enjoyable, not the best.
Yeah, but I think we should accentuate the positive because it was very, very watchable. And it's not the kind of thing you would watch and say, I'm never watching this again.
True. Some other recurring, I mentioned Mike Lally. There was a Lou Brown who was in this and Candidate for Crime. Stuart Nisbet, who was in this and obviously and A Most Dangerous Match, and George Sawaya, who was also in A Case of Immunity.
Okay.
I think that happens quite a lot. They use the same extras.
That's different characters.
Yeah. One other thing where we're sort of doing a bit.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. The aunt Ida Lupino.
Okay.
She was a very staunch Democrat supporter back in the sort of 50s and 60s.
Okay.
Supported Kennedy.
Right.
Big friends at the time back then with Ronald Reagan and Nancy.
Who were not Democrats?
Who were at the time.
Okay. Oh, you mean previously? Okay.
Previously, back in the 50s or whatever.
Okay.
Attended their wedding. I think she babysat for the Reagans.
Of course, Reagan was an actor, so that was the connection.
Precisely. There. So very close friends, but were at their wedding. When he deflected to the Republicans in 62, she had such a fallout. She wrote to them and says, that is a disgraceful act. We'll never be, we can never have this, this friendship has to end now, and never spoke to them again. So, we're nearly at the the end of season 1, Ian.
We are. We've got one more episode to go.
Yeah, next week will be Blueprint for Murder.
Directed by Peter Falk.
That's
all I know about it so far, so I'm looking forward to trying that out.
It's a good episode. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Can we say, once again, thanks to everyone who's been commenting on things. We've had some good conversations going on the show notes, on the blog posts, on the website, and on Twitter in particular.
Mm-hmm.
We would love you to give us a wee rating or possibly even a review on iTunes and whatever else.
That would be great, yeah.
It's a big help to the podcast. The more folk that listen to it, the better chance you have of us.
And even tell us how you, like I say, recently we've had a lot of new subscribers, new listeners, which is brilliant.
Yeah, like we said at the start, it'd be
if
great
you could
to know.
Tell us how you found us. Did someone else mention us? Did you find it online? Were you just searching for a Colombo podcast? It would be useful information.
Yeah, are you related to one of us? Any of those sources? It'd be great to know. And thanks, like I say again, to the people who are. Please do continue to speak to us on Twitter, to comment on the show notes, to give us any trivia responses. We've asked you a few questions this week.
Any feedback, yeah.
And any feedback you have, anything you want to see different.
We've had, again, requests for people to come on the show as a guest. We definitely intend doing that.
We do.
It won't be for a few episodes yet. We're just not in a position where we're in the position to do that.
Yeah.
But definitely something that we're looking and we would like to do
in the future.
So for all those who would like to get involved, then let's chat in the future.
Okay,
Ian. So we shall meet up next week.
Yep, we'll reconvene then.
And we'll go through a Blueprint for Murder.
Okay, until then, cheerio.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.